Welcome to the Author Roundup. This special segment of the Book Connection show features up-and-coming indie authors who sit down with us and talk about their recently released books. Join us as we chat with our next guest author. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Author Roundup. My name is Emma. I have here with me today award-winning author Joni Franks. Hi, Joni. How are you today?
Hi, Emma. I'm fine. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about your books?
I'll be delighted to tell you about my books. It's been about 6 years since I wrote my first book. And I did that while I was sitting on the covered porch of my mountain cabin in Colorado. And I hand wrote out a story, and I continue to handwrite my stories. But I sat there on the covered porch and wrote a story. And I chose the timely themes of equality and bullying to weave into that first storyline. And I integrated the real life adventures that I had with my Welsh corgi, Sagebrush. And fast forward to present, and I'm so happy to say that I have 10 published works at present. Yay. And I have 2 new books on the horizon to be published in 2023.
That's amazing.
Thank you. And I'm so honored to share that I have received over 40 literary honors for these books in multiple genres and in illustration.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So how many books are there for Corgi Tales, as far as like how is each book different?
Well, the first book sets the stage for the series because when I wrote that first book, I have a sort of a different story than most authors, as I really didn't set out to be an author. I just wrote this story and wanted it to be a dedication to my dog. And I kind of wanted one coffee table book. And I was ex-libris to publish that. And then my friends bought the book. And they came back with all of these amazing stories from their children and their grandchildren. And they said, you've really got something and you need to continue. So I talked to my publishing consultant, Travis, and I'm like, well, what should I do? And he's like, you should make it into a series. And I had no idea what I would even talk about. But now there are 7 books in the series, and each one has a different adventure.
I love the premise of, your initial first book about corgis, and I think I read about it, real dogs don't have tails. Is that what it was? I love that because you can take that, multiple ways, and there's an underlying message there about women that I think you have, about that women can do everything that men do. So I love that premise.
Thank you so much. As a published author, it's my goal to make a positive influence through my writing. So I choose a variety of themes in hopes to teach life lessons and problem-solving techniques to not only the new generation, but the present generation. My books seem to have an appeal not only to children and families, but adults as well, and particularly dog lovers. My first book sets the stage for the series, and it does start Real Dogs Don't Need Tails. And in that first book, the little dog Sagebrush, who is born without a tail, and she feels so bad for what she doesn't have. And the other ranch dogs label and bully her and tell her she's not a real Welsh corgi. They call her a corgi, thus Corgi Tales. And the woman who is buying the ranch is told by the old ranchers that she's going to have a very difficult time in Colorado being a rancher because she's a girl. But together they just prove the disbelievers. The young woman makes a fine rancher, and the little dog, through the ranch woman, finds love and value and worth, and she learns to herd cattle, and she finds her rightful place on the ranch.
So you published many, many books. So what was it like getting all of these amazing awards for your achievements?
It was just sort of mind blowing because the way it began, I was doing a book reading in a local bookstore for a large group of people, and it was my first experience with that. So I had to go first and I had to be brave. And I read my story, a bit of my story, and then we had a book signing event afterwards. There were 4 authors there, and a friend of mine said, you need to enter the Colorado Independent Publisher Association Awards, which I'd never heard of, and I just sort of blew it off. But she sent me an email and followed up and sent me the link to enter. And I looked at that link for months and months, and it seemed complex, and I was insecure about it. And finally, I decided to get the courage to do it. So I entered, and an email came to me from the American Fiction Awards. I thought, oh, well, I've done it now. I've entered. I'll double my odds. And that was in 2018. And I won all of the awards. I won 3 SEPA EV awards, and I won the American Fiction Award for the first time that year. So as an indie author, we don't have a lot of interaction with others. We're left to do things on our own. And so that gave me validation to go forward.
Wow. And so can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started? You said initially that you hadn't started out wanting to be like a published author. You just wrote it, just to share your story about your dog.
I retired from business, and for the very first time in my life, I had time on my hands. I've worked my entire life, and I really didn't know what direction I was going to go. So, like I said, I sat down on my porch and I wrote the story out, and then I read it to my partner, and he cried. And he said, "You have to find a way to get it in a book form." And then after I got it in a book form, mothers, grandmothers would come to me and say, my children can't read, but when read to, they're memorizing passages of this book. And they were reciting them to their younger siblings. And it was like they were saying, real dogs don't need tails, and women can be ranchers. And this was like 5-year-old kids. And I was fascinated with that. And I wanted to do something with my life that would make a difference in the world. I felt I've been blessed in my career, and I wanted to give back. And so with the state of the world being as it is, I thought there are many issues that I could talk about, equality and bullying being just a few, and that's how I got started. And then from there, as the series grew, I just chose different themes to write about, and incorporated those into the storylines.
So how long did it take you to write that first initial book?
The Corgi Tale books take me a few weeks to a few months to write, and those books are about 4,000 words. And my young adult series, The Crooked Forest, those are about 12,000 words, and those take me 6 months to a year to complete. Books are harder for me because I delve into deeper subjects. So I really pour a lot of my heart into them, and it just takes longer.
I love, you mentioned The Crooked Forest. I love the cover of The Crooked Forest.
Thank you.
It's so beautiful. Yes, show it, please.
Thank you.
That corgi is just so cute. I mean, I love corgi tails too, but oh my gosh, I just love that cover so much.
This book won a bronze medal from Colorado Independent Publishers for illustration.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Illustrations in this book are really lovely, and I've actually done something unique as a member of a local art gallery. I've taken some of the illustrations and turned them into like different writing journal covers and that sort of thing.
Wow.
Artists have encouraged me to consider making prints, which I haven't done any of that yet, but I got that idea through a fan who wrote to me. And
Oh.
she was expecting a baby, and she already had all my books and
Ah.
bought canvases and copied the Corky Tales of a Tailless Dog Named Sagebrush artwork onto canvases and
Oh.
decorated her nursery. So when the baby came, she sent me a picture of the baby in the crib with this little corgi blanket over him and all this artwork that she had painted from my books, and had the most recent book open that I had mailed her and autographed for the baby's birth.
Oh my goodness.
Going to raise my child with these messages, and that was just meant so much to me.
Oh my gosh, yeah. How did she find out about your books?
You know, I don't know. It was actually her mother-in-law that wrote to me, and
Oh,
she wrote through me to me through my website and said she wanted to get an autographed copy for the baby's birth. And then I made contact with the woman, and she shared the artwork with me through social media.
oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
So therefore, I'm like, well, maybe, down the road, I'll do some prints because people could decorate their nurseries and
Yeah,
that artwork.
yeah. Did you know the illustrator before, or did you know the illustrator for The Crooked Forest, or was that through Ex Libris?
The illustrators I have never met, and
Uh-huh.
so I've had many different ones. I think I've had like three to four, probably four different illustrators. But what I do is I spend hours on the internet researching what I want these characters to look like, what that scene, what's happening in the scene, all from the color of the eyes to the hair.
Oh wow.
And I don't know if other people do it like that, but I craft a complete scenario of scene depictions, characters, and placement of the illustrations. And it's worked out well because I'm always told I have enough information for everyone that it's fairly easy. So it's always fun.
So what is your writing experience like? Has it changed for different books, or has your writing experience been like the same throughout every book? Or
I think I've grown as a writer from that
Mhm.
book, but yet I wouldn't want to change anything in that book. I leave it in its first form because I feel like it's pure and it's my
Mhm.
art, and it has won quite a few awards. So I probably will always keep them as they are, but I do believe I've grown as a writer, and in particular, having the courage to step outside of the Quirky Tales book series and have the courage to create a companion series that goes along with that's for a slightly older young adult audience. And
Mhm.
writing is definitely more difficult, more time consuming,
Mhm.
more passionate, more heartfelt.
Yeah. Was there anything that you thought about specifically you wanted to do as a writer from going from children's to YA?
I just wanted to put more of my heart in there and talk about issues that are close to adults. So,
Mhm.
the Crooked Forest book series talks about overcoming a broken heart, finding
Mhm.
destiny, and the second book that will be published this year is about finding forgiveness, not only for those who have hurt you, but finding forgiveness for ourselves as well.
Mhm. Yeah. What was your favorite part about writing your books? Or do you have like a specific book in mind that was just like your favorite part of writing?
Well, there's something new that I'm doing that I
Mhm.
probably thought I never would do. And I'm incorporating poetry into my books.
Oh,
And
wow.
I find that fresh and fun. And I never considered myself a poet, but it's been coming to me lately. And I'm even considering a separate book of poetry,
Oh,
maybe
wow.
or next. And I also love writing those storybook endings. It's a great feeling when the characters and the plot come together and everyone reaches their destiny, and I can sum up my message for each book.
Hmm.
I always have this favorite quote that I focus on when I'm writing, and it's from Robert Frost. And he says, "No tears in the writer, no tears in the reader, no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader." So when I finish those final draft copies of each book, I try to remember Robert Frost's words because I
Hmm.
publish a book that hasn't moved me in a big way.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Well, I have had storybook endings usually require a few tears at the end, and then I know
Mhm.
I'm right.
Yeah. What is the most difficult part of writing for you? Do you find it difficult at times, or like do you get writer's block, or how do you go about dealing with something like that? Or um, yeah, what have you find difficult about writing?
I really love the creative portion of writing. I love the research I do. I love
Hmm.
the imaginary places I go in my mind. They're very
Hmm.
real to me. But if there is a difficult point, I would have to say it's patiently waiting for inspiration.
Okay.
I have to be moved by a personal life event or a
Okay.
situation in order to write. I don't just write to write.
Right.
So I have to be patient. And sometimes I wonder, am I ever going to be moved again? Will I have a
Mhm.
story? And then it'll come to me and I'll feel better.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
I take that time and stop and write it
Yeah.
down. Mhm.
So that reminds me of like the famous quote, like write what you know. Um, so yeah, that's how a lot of authors are. It's just like write what you know.
Write what you know, write from your heart.
Hmm.
Because if I would love to be, I've thought in along the time ways, I'd like to like be this person or that person, but that's not who I am. And so
Yeah.
I stick to what I think I can do.
Yeah. What's your writing process like? Do you have certain things that you do when you write? Like, do you write in like a certain area or like a certain like time during the day? Because a lot of authors that I talk to, they have like completely very specific writing process, or a lot of authors that I talk to write in the morning. That's when they get their most inspiration.
Right.
What's yours like?
When I'm inspired to tell a story, then I write, and it's always in the morning. Nighttime, after everything's happened during the course of the day, I'm spent and I'm not going to be inspired then. But
Mhm.
when I get an idea, particularly if something interests me, I'll start doing research on it. And that helps me, all that research that I do. And it might be something so simple as a plant or an animal or a place, but I'll
Mhm.
find out everything I can about it. And that helps me go there in my mind. I also find those images that I want for my illustrations, and
Mhm.
I'll put those out in front of me, and those help me to identify with the
Oh,
characters. And something as simple as the mistletoe herb or a snowdrop flower, I need to see that visual, and that really helps me to go there. And then by the time I've created the story, I feel like they're real life people and that I've really been there.
oh wow. That's so cool. I like the visual aspect that you mentioned about having something physically there. I really like that.
I'm a visual person, and that
Yeah.
helps.
Okay. So what would you say is probably the nicest feedback or review you've received? I mean, the one about that you've shared about the expecting mother, that's pretty amazing. But is there like any review or or anything you've received that just stuck in your brain after 10 books?
Yeah, there is, and I have been blessed to receive some good reviews. There's one I'd like to share with you if I could.
Yes.
This is a professional review that I got from Pacific Book Review.
Oh, wow.
And a couple of my books have been awarded the Star of Excellence, and this particular book was awarded the Star of Excellence. This is Sagebrush and the Warm Springs Discovery. It talks about homelessness and sharing Mother Earth's resources. But I got this review and I'd like to read it because it just like it fulfills all the goals that I really wanted to succeed with as a writer. It says, this lesson is beautifully scripted by Joni Franks, telling a story with a moral message, interleaved with artfully drawn illustrations. This book creates an indelible memory in the minds of readers. Sagebrush and the Warm Springs Discovery is yet another fine addition to the Corky Tales series of illustrated books. This book, along with the others in the collection, is destined to become a keepsake in family libraries, offering each generation the excitement, adventure, fantasy, and morality of Joni Franks, each story told through the eyes of Sagebrush.
Oh, wow.
That one, I love that one.
Yeah. Wow, that's really. Have you reached out to the person that wrote it to say thank you, or?
I never have, but Pacific Book Review, I've gotten some really good reviews, but they seem to really like my books there, and I've never reached out, but I always appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah, that's a really good review. It's worded beautifully.
Thank you.
What advice would you give for a first-time writer who is wishing to publish a book?
Just a few simple words. Never give up on your dreams. You have to continue on. If you don't, you'll never know. So just on your dreams.
Yeah, that's a good one. I feel like I've talked to a lot of authors and they've said, the same thing about, you never, if you never, like, some authors just think about their ideas or their books constantly, and they say, if I never try, then it'll just be on my mind, forever. And it's like taking that first step is like so important.
If I had never done that, I can't imagine, because these books have taken me places in my life that I would never, ever have been, that I would never have experienced if I hadn't had that courage. And sometimes these issues that I talk about aren't easy to talk about, and I wonder how be perceived. And sometimes, maybe not so well, but most of the time, it's good, but it takes courage to do that. So be courageous.
Yeah. You mentioned all of the topics that you bring up in your books as children's books and young readers. I feel like a lot, that just reminded me, I feel like a lot of children's books kind of lack that, like that sort of like lesson or motto, I guess I would say. I'm a first-time mom, and I feel like, I have children's books that are for babies, but I would say, like, sometimes I read her a book and I'm just like, oh, I feel like this could have more of like a lesson, I would say. And so I like that about your books, the way each one is different and has something that a reader, author, or adults and children can take away from that.
I always try to find a timely theme. A lot of the books are environmental messages. As I said, I have equality and bullying in the first book. My second book, Sagebrush Meets the Shuns, is about environmental conservation and deforestation. I saw a place in the mountains that had been clear cut, and it just moved me to write this story. And it also sets the stage for bringing in the shuns, which It's kind of an interesting story because I dreamed about these little people decades ago, and that dream remained with me. It was at a time in my life when I was getting ready to build a new house on a piece of property that had never been lived on.
Mm-hmm.
And I started dreaming about these little people, and they lived in the hollowed out trees, and they were very shy because they'd been shunned by human society for their reverence for Mother Nature and the earth. And they hid from people. So I incorporated them into all the stories of the Corky Tales series, but I talk about the Hayden Pass fire that broke out 10 miles from my Colorado home. There's a wildfire prevention message there, as well as a dedication to firefighters and smoke jumpers who are our heroes. I talk about the floods that followed the fire. Many of my friends in a particular region lost their homes due to the fires that came after the Hayden Pass fire. And that land is no longer the way it was, and it will never be. It's not livable any longer. I wrote a book about the Warm Springs discovery that talks about homelessness and sharing the earth with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was encouraged by a friend who's an astronomer to write a story about dark sky, light pollution. Dark sky preservation is light pollution, and a lot of people don't know about that. So I wrote a book, Sagebrush and the Disappearing Night Sky, and that book won a Best Book of 2022 award in children's fiction. Then I have my newest Corky Tale book, Sagebrush and the Never Summer Mountains, which is inspired by a four-wheel drive Jeep adventure that I took.
Oh, wow.
To a remote mountain region where I saw up close and personal a devastating landslide.
Oh, man.
And it moved me, and I that image remained clear in my mind. So latest Corky Tale book, Sagebrush and the Never Summer Mountains, talks about this, and you can follow the journey of Sagebrush along with her friends as she journeys to the Never Summer Mountains to clear a colossal landslide that has blocked Froze Creek and compromised the local water source. This one has a nice poem in the front as well. That's a dedication to Sagebrush. I might read it to you if that'd be.
Yes, please.
Okay. This is to Sagebrush. Through thick and thin we travel, you are always by my side, exploring and adventuring, seeing what we may find. These mountains aren't an easy place, but we choose to stay, waking up together to greet every single day. Thank you, dear Sagebrush. I never want our time to end, but mostly I want to thank you for being my best friend.
Oh, that's amazing. I love the way like you write. Yeah, you just like write what you know. I love, like, you live in Colorado, like you pull things from that there. Like, yeah, there's environmental issues and stuff, and I love the way it's just like captured in your books.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So you mentioned that you have some upcoming projects this year. Can you talk a little bit about those and any other goals you have for 2023?
I have lots of goals for 2023. Like I said earlier, the success of Corky Tales encouraged me to go with a young adult series, The Crooked Forest. And I'm already have submitted just this week that new manuscript to Exlibris. And I'm working on copy editing right now. And I'm so proud to say that The Crooked Forest won 2 2022 Best Book Awards in the categories of New Age Fiction and Novelette Fiction, which means so much to me because oftentimes we're told we can only succeed in one field as maybe a children's book author, when in reality the sky is the limit. So I'm very happy to call myself a multi-genre author. And also this year, I have a new Corky Tale book that I will be publishing. And that book is about facing challenging times and keeping hope in your heart during those times. And I'm really excited about that book. I've been wanting to write a Christmas Corky Tale book for a lot of years, but nothing came to me. And then it came at Christmas, and it came all at once, and I just wrote it, and it's good. I'm happy with it.
Oh
So
my gosh.
later in the year to come out for Christmas.
I love that. That's amazing. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
I just wanted to share that the Corky Tales, Tales of a Tailless Dog Named Sagebrush book collection has 7 books available at present. One book, Sagebrush and the Warm Springs Discovery, has been translated to Spanish. So that's an excellent tool side by side to teach a second language either way. There's also a fun Corky Tale coloring book that is designed to go along with the series. That's fun. All of these books, the Corky Tale book series and the Crooked Forest book series, are available on my website, which is www.jonifranks.com, and that's spelled JONIFRANKS. If you like Amazon or Barnes and Noble, the books are also available there through those resellers. And if you're a bookstore or library, my books are available through Ingram Sparks at a discounted price and include the book returnability program.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joni, for joining us today, and congratulations on all of your success. And thank you for sharing the story of Sagebrush and for being an ex-Leaderist author. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Emma. It was my pleasure to be here. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.